So we had the first night of the DNC last night, the DNC convention, and it was pretty good. Um, there were some new faces, some old faces, and a lot of really solid speeches, a lot of good energy, and even some surprising performances. So let me hold on a second. Let me make sure I'm on the right page here. Um, I'll start out with, I guess I'll start out with one of the surprises. So we had Hillary Clinton come up, and honestly, I was kind of dreading the Hillary speech because, last we saw of Hillary, she was losing to Donald Trump in 2016, turning the country over to an absolute maniac. And her whole campaign was really just sad, and not even just sad, but it was just a bad campaign. She just ran a bad campaign. She didn't, come off as genuine ever. She just sort of flailed and flopped and, assumed she was going to win. And of course, we know what happened. But I was very surprised, actually. Let's listen to a little bit.
Donald Trump fell asleep at his own trial. And when he woke up, he made his own kind of history. The first person to run for president with 34 felony convictions.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal, reminding us all that, yes, Donald Trump is in fact a convicted felon, amongst other things, fraudster, and civilly liable rapist. And just to remind us over and over again. That's good.
As Vice President, Kamala sat in the Situation Room.
The crowd starts chanting, "Lock him up," which has happened pretty much every time they bring up the Donald Trump's crimes and things. Um, and I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I don't like stooping to that level. I don't like the idea of locking up political opponents or even threatening to. I think it's pretty below us as Americans. However, Donald Trump was the one that started it. And he started it with relation to Hillary Clinton and her email scandal and all that stuff. And you can just sort of see sort of the moment of recognition, the full circle, and her, smug smirk that gets plastered on her face for that moment as she sort of realizes what's happening. She doesn't lean into it. She doesn't start chanting it herself. But it is psychologically, and again, it's not the end of the election. This is just sort of a moment of momentum and energy. But the feeling is that Kamala is doing what she needs to do, that the country is on her side, that there's a victory coming. And it would just be marvelous if that was how the story ended. And yeah, and Hillary's, she's feeling it in that moment. So. Look at this woman's face. Not really the best visuals here, but it is what it is. See, when the Democrats do it, it is kind of in jest, even though this guy is a criminal and he deserves to be in prison. We're not for that. We don't really want Trump or anybody to be locked up in prison. This guy, Sean Fain, the United Auto Workers Union president, has been absolutely tearing it up on the campaign trail. He came up with this line, "Trump is a scab," which is just sort of really just a gross kind of way to label it. And it makes sense because Trump is sort of this festering, congealing mass of, negativity. And he needs to be removed.
Trump is pushing divide and conquer tactics.
Divide and conquer tactics.
It's the oldest trick in the book. They want to blame the frustrations of working class people. They want to take those frustrations, they want to blame it on race. They want to blame it on LGBTQ plus people. They want to blame it on some destitute and desperate person at the border. They do that because they want working class people to be divided and to focus and keep the focus off the one true enemy, corporate greed.
This is such a good point, and we don't like it's so frustrating that Trump has sucked up into his base all of these poor working class white people. And he's gotten them literally to vote against their own interests every single time. I mean, Trump is the one, the Republicans are the one, the Republican establishment, the corporatists, these sellouts, these are the ones that are shipping jobs overseas, for pennies on the dollar. These are the ones that are selling out this country, that are, working overtime against the interest of working people, that are sucking up all the resources and sending them to the CEOs and the shareholders and leaving nothing for the working people. And the way they do that is by turning it into, a fist fight about cultural values and all this bullshit that's not even real, to get them to stay on their side and to vote against their own interests. And Sean Fain is pointing that out. He's getting working people to turn on each other so that the rich can walk out the back door with all the money. And that's exactly what's happening. It doesn't get talked about enough. But so besides that, there were some emotional moments. There were some redemption moments, for, Hillary Clinton and others. And then there were, some young rising stars that really had their moments. So this Jasmine Crockett, I'll be honest, I didn't really know about her. I've probably seen her in a clip or two, when she's gone viral on TikTok or otherwise. But she's a young, firebrand. She brought the emotion, I think, to the show last night. And this was a moment where she actually started, tearing up. And you could say, well, this has nothing to do with policy and this and that. But I'm just looking at it through the eyes of like the average person, the voter who's trying to look at this and connect to it. I mean, she was a great speaker. She had a great story. She had a great, way of presenting things. And then to actually come out and start crying, I thought was, it touched me a little bit, So here's her at this point.
But she saw right through me. She saw the distress.
She's talking about Kamala. She had this interaction with Kamala, when she first ran for Congress, and it got emotional.
She saw the distress. I immediately began crying. And the most powerful woman in the world wiped my tears and listened. It's so hard for me to tell this, sir. She then said, among other things, you are exactly where God wants you. Your district chose you because they believe in you, and so do I.
It's a nice human moment where, in politics and with politicians, we really struggle to find human politicians, people that actually care, people that are actually connected, in tune, in touch. And these are moments that I think are necessary, to a degree. I mean, again, thinking about Hillary Clinton and where she failed because nobody saw her as human. Everybody saw her as just, this doll that could become whatever in whatever moment. She had a private outlook. She had a public outlook. She had private opinions. She had public opinions, and that was all such a turnoff for people. And she could never humanize herself and relate to the people. Then we have Jamie Raskin, who he had a very real set. He really just sort of came out and was saying things in kind of a dark way, but he pointed out the reality of the situation. And this was one of those moments that should be remembered.
Hey, J.D. Vance, do you understand why there was a sudden job opening for running mate on the GOP ticket? They tried to kill your predecessor.
Why did Trump need to go out and look for a new vice president? Well, it's because he literally tried to get his last one killed. They stormed the Capitol. They were searching for him. They were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." They even set up a noose outside. So that's the other side that we're dealing with. I mean, the depravity, the darkness, the riotousness, the lying, the mendacity, the creepiness, the weirdness. And then the other side, just at the very least, telling the truth, presenting a positive vision. And we had a few examples of that at this point. So there are more speeches to come. There were more speeches that I could go into. Maybe I'll do that as well. But those are some of the moments that I saw. Again, Hillary Clinton overperformed. Best speech that I've seen of her, and probably ever. Although I haven't seen a lot of her speeches, to be honest. But that was a good one. AOC had a good speech. Jamie Raskin had an interesting speech. Sean Fain did a job as well, and Jasmine Crockett, young star, doing her thing as well. So interesting stuff. We will see how it continues. And yeah, thank you for watching. Appreciate you. And I'll see you in the next one.